Another Pro Guides video. My name is Irene, and today we'll be discussing... I'm sorry, Mikey.
No, you're not.
Today we'll be discussing Kalista top. Apparently the top lane meta hasn't been through enough already this season, and where there are enchanters, there are marksmen somewhere nearby demanding healing. Soraka and Sona top were just heralds for the true menace yet to arrive, Kalista. Really quick though, before we jump into it, today's question of the day is, what's the weirdest pick you've ever won with? Let us know all your answers in the comments below, and also, before we get started, make sure to check out ProGuides.com. If you want to see huge improvements in your rank, go there, and we have challenger coaches available 24/7 who will help you climb the ladder this season. Also, if you're not already subscribed here to our YouTube channel, make sure you do that so that you can rightfully comment first and stay in the loop about whatever knowledge we're dropping. Don't miss out. Now, let's jump right into the video. Well, it finally happened. We've pushed our top laners too far. They got so desperate for ganks, they realized the only way to ensure that they'd get some attention is to literally bind their soul to the jungler, drag them into the lane, and make them yeet themselves at the enemy like a bard player casually hurling their meeps into oblivion. And you know what? It's actually...
It's actually what, Zyrene?
I said I'm sorry, Mikey. It's actually pretty good. We studied former world champion The Shy to see exactly how it's done, and it's as interesting as it sounds. Some of you may have seen this before in your games, and in fact, when Kalista was first released, it was one of the first things that people tried. So why didn't it catch on then? And why is it catching on now? First, we have to understand what the pick does. In the context of top lane, Kalista is an early game bully, just like every other ranged champion that plagues the lane. But what takes Kalista from standard over-the-counter discount plague to full-on bubonic plague is her mobility. Kalista's passive Martial Poise lets her hop around with every auto attack, making her the best kiting marksman in the entire game. And when she's in the bot lane, this strength is relatively easy to overcome because you have two champions with the potential to lock her down, and there's a decent chance that they're both ranged. In the top lane though, melee tends to be the status quo, so Kalista can cyberbully them one spear at a time. But that still doesn't answer our question, why now? Well, Kalista was neglected for a long time because she falls into this unfortunate category of being kind of weak in solo queue, but OP in organized play, similar to past issues with Ryze and Azir. And when Riot encounters champions like this, they tend to keep them on the weaker side. But after years of being irrelevant, Riot's slowly been giving her some stat buffs here and there to see what happens with her. And more than that though, as I mentioned, Kalista is deathly allergic to being locked down, or touched at all really. Honestly, if you get close enough to breathe on her, she might get gray screened. She basically has the health bar of an anti-vaxxer. Up until recently, top lane was full of big, scary bruisers that could actually fight back and beat Kalista into the dirt, and Kalista doesn't like that. However, since the Bomby Cinder buffs are encouraging a shift back into a tankier meta, Kalista is more than happy to stroll up top lane and pincushion some immobile, vulnerable tanks and juggernauts. And I know I just said Kalista is an early game bully, but don't get the wrong idea. She doesn't stop being a bully after early game if you don't shut her down. There won't be a high school reunion team fight where you show up to find the Chad Kalista who gave you swirlies in laning phase is now doing charity work feeding the homeless junglers of the world. No. Since Kalista is an ADC, she doesn't fall off super hard on her own. She might not scale as well as other ADCs because of her awkward attack speed and movement speed intertwining, but she's an ADC nonetheless, so she'll destroy you late game if she's allowed to maintain a lead. Aside from her independent dominance in lane, Kalista's ult is a ridiculously useful tool for facilitating ganks. Dodging it is pretty challenging, especially for the type of big hitboxed immobile champions you pick Kalista top against in the first place. I mean, her ult is a ridiculous tool in general for high-level play, which is part of why Riot has such a hard time balancing her, but it's especially good for ganking, and it's even better for turret diving. And when Kalista inevitably shoves the enemy top laner under tower, or to go back to a high school metaphor, she shoves him into the porta potty, she can send her jungler crony in to finish the job and knock them over, then use her ult to yoink them out of turret aggro and keep them alive. All in all, it's just ridiculously oppressive to deal with if you don't have the right champions, so if your comp doesn't have some kind of hard engage to force plays on her, you're probably going to want to ban it once it starts catching on more. Not that people even use the hover function in champ select as much as they should, but hey, all this talk about Kalista has me feeling optimistic.
Man, you really think you're funny.
Oh, get over it, Mikey. It's real professional. Real professional. I'm filming here. Thank you.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So we've gotten into the why, now let's get into the how. First and foremost though, I owe you a disclaimer. Don't try this in ranked. I mean, you can, I'm not your dad, You can do whatever you want, I guess, but you really shouldn't. Kalista is a high skill cap champion no matter where she goes. You have to learn how to use her passive to break enemy ankles faster than all that mouse movement breaks your wrist. You have to learn the spear management for her rend. You have to learn what you can and can't hop over with her Q and passive. And on top of all that, your positioning has to be immaculate. As a quick pro tip to save you from the arthritis that comes with managing Kalista's passive, you can use attack, move, click in rhythm with Kalista's auto attacks to make her attack and hop with one click only. That way, you don't have to micro at a speed of 5,000 APM per auto attack to execute on her movement. Anyway, you should really put in a lot of practice in normal games before you bring Kalista top into solo queue. And ideally, you bring a jungler with you so you can coordinate your ulti better. If you first time Kalista top in ranked, you're gonna have a really bad time. Pinky promise. Alright, let's talk about the build. When playing Kalista top, the Shy has been going Hail of Blades, Sudden Impact in winning matchups, Taste of Blood against harder enemies, and Ghost Poro, Ravenous Hunter with Overheal and Alacrity. If he's against a tank though, he'll take Cut Down in place of Alacrity. The stat runes are just attack speed, adaptive force, then either armor or MR depending on which type of damage he's laning against. The reason for these runes in particular is that Hail of Blades recently got changed to where you don't need to be out of combat for 4 seconds in order to proc it again. Now you can just have it every 8 seconds. And since Kalista tends to draw fights out, the burst it offers is perfect for her. Sudden Impact is constantly procced by her passive, Ghost Portal gives her some free sustained vision to keep her safe from inevitable jungle ganks, and Ravenous Hunter keeps her sustained. Kalista can't put out as much front-loaded damage as other ADCs, so sustain and lifesteal are crucial for her. On that note, Overheal synergizes very well with her lifesteal-based build, and then every ADC loves Alacrity for that free attack speed. Item-wise, the Shy is starting off with a standard Doran's Blade and Potion start. From there, he'll buy a second Doran's if he's in a matchup against a champion with a gap closer. Or he'll go Cull if he's in a matchup that he can kite and stomp. Your first full item priority is to get Berserker's Greaves. But before you complete the Berserker's Greaves, you do want to have a Vamp Scepter for the lane sustain. Originally, the Shy was rushing Blade of the Ruined King, but now it looks like he's preferring to rush Sanguine Blade as his Vamp Scepter item. Then he's getting his Blade of the Ruined King. If they have hard CC, pay the QSS tax and build into Mercurial Scimitar. Nothing messes Kalista up more than getting locked down, and the item fits perfectly into her lifesteal build anyway. After that, you generally go Rapid Fire Cannon and a Last Whisper item, but you can build for the situation at hand. So to recap, your core build is Berserker Greaves, Sanguine Blade, Blade of the Ruined King, QSS, Rapid Fire Cannon, and then whatever you need. If they're stacking armor, you get Lord Dominic's Regards. If they have a lot of healing, you get Mortal Reminder. And if they don't have either, you can go Runaan's Hurricane and pass out spears like they're candy, or go Bloodthirster and make yourself even more annoying to kill. In terms of ability leveling, the Shy's Kalista top is sort of unique in the sense that you don't really bother putting points in W, and you only put points in ult situationally. In the games I've observed, he takes E level 1, then puts 2 points in Q, then alternates points between Q and E, with maxing Q first and then E afterward. But like I said, he only puts points into R situationally. He will usually get it around level 8, but if he's duo with a jungler, it'll be level 6, and there's a few games where he hasn't actually gotten his ultimate until level 11. So make sure you're thinking about when you're going to be able to use it. There's no point in putting a level into an ability that you won't be able to use. This is the same logic behind not leveling W for those of you wondering about that. W's vision is nice of course, but it's easily circumvented and its true strength is the passive damage anyway, which you won't be able to use since your soulbound jungler won't be in the lane too frequently to proc it. Oh, and you'll want teleport and flash so you can make quick returns to lane for catching waves. And you'll need to be able to poof into teamfights to assert map pressure. And there's also a neat little trick that most people haven't been able to do with Kalista because she was bottom lane and would take heal. But if you actually press R and your teleport at the same time, you can grab whoever you're bound with and teleport and actually bring them along, bringing 2 people into the fight. Now onto the playstyle itself. Hail of Blades translates to a pretty solid chunk of burst damage for Kalista. And since she only levels her Q and E, her damage spikes earlier than it otherwise would. Take advantage of this to force aggressive trades with the windows provided by Hail of Blades. Use your mobility to close the gap on your enemy, stand still to get the most out of Hail of Blades since Kalista's attack speed is gated by her movement speed, land 3 hits, a Q, and then rend that bad boy. This trade alone absolutely destroys opponents, and you can pull it off as early as level 2. And hey, if they let you get a few more auto attacks in before you rend, it's all the better. The most obnoxious part though is that if you go for a trade and your opponent gets onto you, as long as you successfully escape, your sustained focus build will get you healthy again in no time. Meanwhile, they'll be stuck licking their wounds. Obviously, you'll want to bind souls with your jungler. This is basically you calling dibs on at least 1 or 2 ganks. which is 1 or 2 ganks more than you'd get from most junglers if you were playing anything else that doesn't blatantly spoon feed them kills. As I mentioned earlier, this becomes an excellent tool for ganking, diving, engaging, disengaging, and just straight up rescue. You can even use it to enable smite steals without your jungler having to die. Snatching allies from the grasp of death is always a good feeling. Kalista's ultimate synergizes well with any champion that needs to put themselves in the middle of a fight. If Lee Sin goes for the insec, Kalista ult will let her unsec him out of danger before he's bursted down. Sett is a really strong pick right now, but his biggest weakness is that he's kiteable. However, one Kalista ult is all it takes to get him into the fray and set him up for success. In short, throw buff damage person at enemies, watch them die, win teamfight. Do this again and again until their nexus is gone. Lather, rinse, reheat. If your timing is perfect, and I mean perfect, you can even ult your soulbound partner and instantly activate TP to take them with you for a killer cross-map play. As with Kalista in general, make sure you practice this a good bit before you bring it into live games, or you're gonna look really silly and your team will say hurtful things about you. It'll be really tragic. But once again, before we wrap up, listen to our disclaimer. This is a professional player using this pick, and he's also a former world champion at that. Kalista is a hard champion to play well, and executing this particularly unique playstyle is very challenging. And she's not freelo by any means. She's not freelo, she's not easy peasy lemon squeezy, she is challenging, pineapple challenging. That's not to say you can't do it, we just need you to understand that if you want to do it, you should put a lot of practice time into it. And most importantly, we here at Pro Guides are not responsible for any loss or stolen LP resulting from Kalista Top. Side effects of Kalista Top include but are not limited to sweating, misplays, wrist aches, toxicity, getting flamed, and in some cases dying. Not use Kalista Top if you are tilted, angry, or you may become tilted. Talk to your licensed Pro Guide ELO physician to see if Kalista Top is right for you. All right, that's going to conclude this video. Thanks so much for watching, guys. If you haven't already, make sure to check out ProGuides.com as well as our YouTube channel for some more lighthearted informational content aimed at taking your game to the next level. Drop a like or comment and make sure to subscribe to stay updated with our content as well. And until next time, best of luck on the Rift, Summoners.